Hi guys, my name's Andy and I'm an alcoholic. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Donna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Donna, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 5th, 2000. My home group is the Winter Park group. And I have been tasked tonight to go read the 12 steps with you. And in reading the 12 steps, because I think that this is not just knowledge, this is about sharing my experiences in this work. And so I also have a copy of the original manuscript, and it starts with, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. And so everything has been suggested. And I think that I like the idea that they leave it up to us. I think this is the first time that I've been guided through something and I wasn't told that I had to do something. It was left up to me. And I think depending on how far we go in this work depends on our willingness, our open-mindedness, and our honesty. And I think those three things are very apparent. They never leave us. So we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and after the M dash, that our lives had become unmanageable. And so we use an M dash as a result of. So my powerless over alcohol, this unmanageability, I thought in the beginning it was everything outside of me. I had no idea that it was what was going on inside of me, because like most human beings, I live life outside in. And because I have this peculiar mental twist when it comes to alcohol, I cannot see the truth. And it wasn't until I came into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, my first year in recovery back in 2001, did I realize that my mind lied to me. My mind kept making me think that next time will be different. So it was very comforting to know that it wasn't that I was weak. As Bill Wilson says, I was never going to beat the game. And that was very comforting because I thought myself a loser. And I gave a sigh of relief because I realized, wow, on both fronts, I didn't have power. I didn't have power to control the stop, to pick up, and I couldn't control the stop when it came to how much. And so now I got to look at this unmanageability. And I still, in the beginning of the work, I don't know that it's an inside job. And so I came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Well, first I had to be convinced that I was insane. And the blessing for all of us is that we did not enter into the gates of sanity and death. We got right up to the gate. And some people go through pain, misery, and despair, and they go straight home. So perhaps I was pulled from the gates of death because maybe there is something I'm supposed to do with my life. Maybe all that pain, misery, and despair was so that we can do exactly what we're doing right here, right now, being of service. But I don't know that in the beginning. I just know that I came to believe, and I had to come to believe because I had to see that I could not get past where I was at on my own. And this restore, I have to believe that I am not anything. I used to think I wasn't good enough. But the thing is, you don't restore anything that's not worth restoring. Like a furniture from IKEA, you don't restore IKEA, but you will restore a heirloom. So I believe that we get restored into the children that God intended for us to be. And so then, am I willing to make a decision to turn my will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him? And that was put in because there were members of Alcoholics Anonymous that thought it was too much God. And so they compromised. And so they made it personal to us. If I'm going to come up with a conception that is personal to me, maybe that conception of that God that's personal to me is how I understand God in any given moment. They're not telling me how much God I'm supposed to understand or how little. But wherever I understand, however I understand, is sufficient. And so I've never used the word will before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, quite frankly. That was a whole new word for me. And so when we make this decision to turn our will and our lives over, am I willing to transfer my thinking? My will is my thinking. This self-will thinking. Am I willing to turn my thinking, my emotions, my desires, my wishes, all of that, and my life? And my life is from this point until I die. That's my life. Am I willing to turn my actions and my reactions over to God? That's turning a lot over. That's turning all of me over. But because of what I saw in step one, I was willing to make this decision. And what helped me with that decision is I had to come up with a concept of God, because I look at the word caretaker. And a caretaker is only used when the owner is absent. And that's pretty much what happens in step 4 for me. I'm not relying on my mind as I write inventory, because that set-aside prayer, I use it every time I put pen to paper. And so what are the qualities of a caretaker? Honest, trustworthy, available, dependable. And so I looked at the qualities of this caretaker, because when I go out of town, I need a caretaker to take care of my cats because the owner, me, is not around. And so there's certain qualities that I look for. So that's what I look for. And that helps me to form a conception of God that is comforting. So once I make this decision that I'm going to turn my thinking, and what is my thinking up to this point? It's selfish and self-centered. Am I willing to turn my selfish and self-centered thinking, my actions and my reactions over to the care of God so I can, it says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Well, this is the first time I went through the work that I thought that I was the problem. I thought you were my problem. Joke's on me. So how do I do something I've never done before, that I'm afraid to do, because on some level I am too afraid to see my behavior? I wasn't ignorant to the things I said to folks and the things I did. See, I can take your inventory because that's all I did all my life. I blame you. You mean I got to look at me? And searching, that means that I'm going to be very thorough in this search. I'm going to shine a spotlight on it. And fearless, that's all I am, is full of fear. How do I do something fearless? Well, that's why that 3rd step prayer is so key, because without that 3rd step prayer, I'm not going to do the inventory. My mind is not going to want me to see what it's been hiding from me that keeps nipping at me. Remember what they did, remember what they did, remember what they did. Am I willing to admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs? Wow, that's a whole new concept, because I never wanted you to see me. I remember when I heard Rashid, a grown man, say, I never wanted anyone to see my hiney. And to hear a man say that, it really had an impact. I'm going to admit the things that I never wanted you to know about me, because my whole life was spent on you being impressed with me. My whole existence about who I am was based on what you thought about me. And I didn't want you to see the things about me that I didn't like about me. The exact nature of my wrongs, not yours. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And in the original manuscript, it says, willing that God. I'm glad that they changed it to ready, because after a thorough fourth and fifth steps, I realized that if I believe that my responsibility is to be of service to God, the things that I saw on my inventory, those things are not needed. And so am I ready to give them over to God? Because I can't be of service if I'm being unaccountable, if I'm being dishonest, if I'm being manipulative, if I'm being fearful. I think that each and every one of us can take another person's inventory and put our name on top of the sheet, and it would describe all of us. And I get to see for the first time in step 5 that I'm not so unique, that I'm just as spiritually sick as the people that I'm angry with. And I get to see in step 4 that it's really not resentments, it's my belief systems that have been driving me, coupled with a lot of fear. So I admit that, and all of a sudden there's a shift. There's something that happens in spite of me. I get to see that after my 5th step, and when I sit quietly for an hour, and then I go and I'm willing to have God remove these defects of character so he can provide me with the principles that are needed to be of service. Humbly on our knees, that's what it said in the original manuscript, but that's exactly how I do my 7th step. I'm on my knees because I believe on my knees shows humbleness. Humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Am I now willing to believe that I'm not this great big Willy Bobo I thought I was? And I'm willing to serve one master, not two. I'm willing to not serve the God of reason. I think step 8 and 9 is the magic and the miracle of step 7, because now we walk through the story of this new life that we want God to have all of us, good and bad, that we're willing to make a list. And the list that I make in step 8 are some of the people that were on step 4. And all of a sudden I realize it's not about what they did to me, it's what I did to them, because I've already been free. But perhaps there's people that still are under this belief system that the only way they can be free is to have somebody apologize to them, like I used to think. And perhaps God enables us to free them by apologizing to them, because they think that that's the only way. But since we're on this new way of life, we've been shown differently. So I have this list of all persons, even the people that I don't really want to see, and the people that I think that I will never see, and the people that are dead. There's always a way of making an amends. So I make a list of all the people I had hurt and became willing to make. And in the original it says complete amends to them all. I think certain times that it's not even important whether these people are willing to see me. I think it's the the fact that I demonstrated the willingness to do something that most human beings do not have the willingness to do, and that is go back and apologize. That is huge. Most people will say, well, God forgave me, so I'm good. I can keep it moving. No, we go a step further. We go back to people. And then in step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. I'm not considered the other. I don't look at what's going to happen to me. I had some amends where I had cheated with some men that had wives. I didn't go to the wives, but what I did, I found a woman who I felt was in a happy relationship. And I read her my harms of how I interfered with the marriage of another woman. Made direct amends whenever do so. I wrote amends letters to the babies I aborted. And I named them, and I wrote a letter of apology and kind of thought about the life that I did not allow them to have. I realize that I'm not judged for that, because if I was judged for that, God would not entrust so many of his children to me. So I believe I've been forgiven for that. In step 10, we continue to take personal inventory. See, I don't want to be the person I used to be on a regular basis. All of a sudden, the unacceptable, what was acceptable, all of that laundry list of character defects, all of a sudden becomes very uncomfortable behaving that way. I think that restless irritability and discontent was because my behavior was in direct conflict with the spiritual way of life. So am I willing to take my inventory, not yours? Whole new bag. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. See, I know when I've done something to hurt you. See, in the beginning, if you had brought something to my attention, I would have thought you were criticizing me. I would have thought you were judging me. Before you have to say anything, I felt it. Because I try to live my life with concern for other people. Do I always catch it? No, but if you bring it to my attention, trust me, I'm not going to say what I used to say. Oh, get over it. Or why are you so sensitive? That was the best I can do back in the day. Promptly admitted it. See, my step 10, and I know I probably don't have much time left because I take forever on this, but my step 10, I take the phone, because I don't try to text, because if I text, I get too caught up in trying to hit the right key. I don't know how these young kids text, but I hit every wrong key. I use the microphone, and I text it into my sponsor, and I say it like, oh my God, I can't believe how impatient I just was. Because I like to hear myself be so appalled at the way I treated another human being. And so step 10 is really 4 through 9. My 4th step is I'm admitting where I was wrong. My 5th step is I'm letting my sponsor know. And then I go right into 6 and 7, man. God, please remove this impatient behavior that I just displayed to this person who didn't deserve it. And step 7, God, I offer more of me to all of you. And I can keep it moving in life, because if I hold on to the things I did, trust me, my ego loves that, because then it starts building on it, building on it, building on it, and it blots out any goodness. And all I'm focusing on is the thing that I could have. If I had taken personal inventory and promptly admitted it, I would have been free. Keep the channel clear. See, I think our responsibility is to be in position to help God. And I can't be in position to be of service if I'm up in my head with some BS, like how my mind used to have so much power and control over me. In step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God again, as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And see, now I realize that 1 + 1 is 1. Me and God are one. I remember I was at Arisa B's workshop on Saturdays, And she said that I don't like myself. And I never understood that until very recently. I realized that I had been saying that and hearing that and realized what that is the I within me does not like the self I created. And so sought through prayer and meditation, that's got to be the beginning of my day, because I want to start my day with a whole new narrative. I want to be still so that the I within me has more power than the thoughts that want to assault me throughout the day, that want to still look outside, that wants me to be in fear, that wants me to doubt, that wants me to judge. And then having had a spiritual awakening, so there's 3 things that should be happening to me in step 12. There's 3 parts. Having had a spiritual awakening, in the original manuscript it said experience, but not all of them were having the same kind of experiences that Bill had. You know, for some of us, maybe we have to go through the work more than once to really have a deep experience. I'm going to wrap up now. So we have a spiritual awakening. I used to be so asleep thinking I was awake. I remember hearing that from Mark Houston. I was asleep thinking I was awake. So we have the spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, this course of action. We tried. Am I willing to try to carry this message to alcoholics? So I don't think that we look to be speakers. We look to be messengers. Because if I'm looking to be a speaker, I think that's all me. But, you know, we say the set aside prayer because we really want to set aside what we think we know, because this is God's platform. God wants to use us so that his children will come and join. And I think all of us are heading home. That's at least how I see it. And it says in the original manuscript to carry this message to others, especially alcoholics. So what do? We're demonstrating a whole new way of life. Maybe we're the only ones in our families, in our friend circle, that has this light, because at this point, there's a light that people start seeing. And God uses us. It says that we're agents. More religious people have another name for it. And practice these principles in all our affairs. So all of a sudden now, I've got a whole new set of beliefs that I start seeing when I'm in step 6, because in my step 6, I have that laundry list of objective behaviors, and I have a list that says impatient, and I look up the definition, and it's patient, and I go through the list in step 6. God, please remove my impatient behavior and show me how to be patient, because I need some sense of what these spiritual principles are, because I'm not accustomed to them. It's not that I'm telling God how I want him, I want him to do for me, but I, as a human being who without God is selfish and self-centered to the core, I want to have an idea of what the opposite of who I've been, what I start becoming. So I'm going to end right there. I hope that I didn't go over because I wasn't conscious of the time. Thank you.